Thank you, gentlemen and guns. Coming.
Hey guys, it's Bert. Happy this week of your life. I want to thank everyone for all the amazing feedback on the Rolling Stone article I read last week. If you haven't checked it out, last week I read the Rolling Stone article that was written about me in 1997. Some people complained that the end wasn't there. I reposted the end. It's on my podcast list, so you just go get it there. But thank you so much. I also want to thank everyone that subscribed to my YouTube channel. I've been working really hard on my YouTube channel. If you want to find my YouTube channel, go to bertbertbert.com. It's in the top right-hand corner. Click on the YouTube button. I posted the funniest video I've probably ever done where I accidentally buy a calf in Texas. I did a vlog. I did a seated vlog. I jump off the world's tallest rope swing in South Africa. I get an Vietnamese ear cleaning in Vietnam. My audition is Gandalf for Peter Jackson's on there. I'm putting up a lot of videos, so check them out. And as always, if you type in Isla in that, you'll get hilarious videos. I want to take 1 second real quick to talk about a guy who's reached out to me, and he's not paying me for advertising, but I like what he's doing, and I believe in him, and I dig his app. He's got an app called Jimster. Jesus, let me hope I got that right. He's got an app called Jimster. Thank God. Jim as in Jymster. It is on iTunes. It's like $1, but it is entrenched in workouts. Super awesome, super customable. He sent me a free one. Quite honestly, I ended up buying it because I was like, oh, the guy's doing it, but he's trying to do this on his own, man. He's been listening to the same podcast we've been listening to, and they changed his life, and he decided to do something different. His name's Mark. And he made this app, and he just wants to do what he wants to do and love his chick. He lives in London. Yes, you can have that, baby. So check out Jimster. There's no promo code. He just emailed me and said, I'd love to get in touch with some people. And I thought, why not send some cool people to his app for free for him? So check it out. It's called Jimster. You can customize your workouts. If you're like me and you're on the road and you're in a hotel gym all the time and you only have limited weights, it really does help out. And I do use it. So check it out. That's it for ads. I'm in the Comedy Factory in Baltimore, October 22nd, 23rd, 24th. I'm in Dayton, November 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I think I'm going to try to bang out a one-night show in Austin. I haven't talked to them yet, but maybe November 10th or 11th. So, probably November 10th. I haven't talked to them, though. But hit up Cap City and tell them you want me to come. Today's podcast is really great. I'm going to defend this podcast tonight. I do the typical Bert thing. And, for the first 20 minutes, we share stories. And I overwhelm the podcast. Thank you, baby. Is this one caramel? I overwhelm it a little bit. But then that stops. And my guest today talks extremely honestly about his life that I was unaware of, and I've known this guy for a very long time. I've been a fan of his for even longer than I've known him. And it gets really good, man. It is really good, and you realize just how deep this dude is and the kind of hardships he grew up with. And you think you know someone, and you have no idea. I think that's, oddly, I think that's a promo for MTV, which is a fitting introduction from this guy. You might know him from Road Rules, Season 9. He's a stand-up comedian. He was on Reality Bites Back with me and Amy Schumer and Mo Mandel and Donnell Rollins and Red Grant and Chris Fairbanks and Kyle Cease, and we talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for an amazingly, fantastically fascinating interview with Theo Von. How do I? That was the button.
This is Bertcast.
5. Hello? Hello? Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
So, and that's recording, and we're recording. Yeah, Bill and Al came over and talked to me about it, and it felt fair. I'm not saying that any other the networks aren't fair, but I know that, Bill and Al's big thing was if we do happen to sell this for a ton of money, you're getting a cut. You're not getting screwed out of this. So that
right, you're not helping build the brand and not getting.
And then Bill and Al walk away with fat fucking paychecks. Now, having said that, Bill and Al are the only ones that are funding this fucking thing. I mean, Bill is single-handedly keeping this our podcast network alive. Because when we need shit like a studio, Bill just does a show.
Yeah.
And then gives all the money to the fucking
Bill Simmons?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Bill Burr.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. Bill Burr is, I mean, and that's probably not fair to say because I know that when we do, sometimes we'll do ads and they'll ask us to donate some of our revenue, whatever we wanted to donate to the network, and we always donate the most.
Right.
More, probably usually double than whatever they're asking. And we all do stuff to help out the network. But it's cool.
I love Bill Burr.
Yeah, Bill's fucking, I mean, I've known Bill for a really long time, and he's just one of those, like, super solid guys that doesn't mean to, has no interest in fucking you over.
I remember, well, I've always been a big fan, and the other couple months ago, I had to go on before him at this big theater, and I did well, and I got off stage, and I turned around this curtain, and he was right there. And he was like, "Good job, man."
Yeah, but you're actually killing it right now on stage. You've grown so fucking much.
Thanks,
I was
man.
really fucking blown away because I think, and I say, I don't need to candy coat anything with you because I'll just go back because I think you've kind of outgrown it to the point that people probably don't even know. But I mean, like I told you this when I first met you. I was a fan of you on Road Rules.
Yeah.
I thought you should be a comic when I first saw you on Road Rules. Do you remember me telling you that story?
Yeah, I remember you telling me your wife thought I was cute.
Yeah. She definitely thought you were.
Not offense that I didn't hear what you said, but I mean, like, I was a 22-year-old kid. I was like,
No.
that's more exciting. You
did that thing where you guys all walked from on that balance beam from air balloon to air
that's
balloon.
the first thing I ever did on there.
When the kid was freaking out, that one kid who's like the all-American kid.
Yeah.
You're like kind of, and he was like, "Guys, seriously, I'm really nervous. No one make any jokes." And they were like, "What was his name?"
James.
They're like, "James, you're up next." And you went, "Dead man walk."
Well, I honestly thought he was going to die. He was bow-legged, too, and only one leg. Interesting.
He only had one leg?
No, he had two legs, but one of his legs was bow-legged.
Are you
which is
serious?
very rare, yeah.
But
extremely rare.
I told you, I was like, dude, when I first saw you on Road Rules, I thought you should, because I was obsessed with Road Rules. I was really obsessed with Road Rules.
It was a good show, man. They made a good show for a long time.
A really long time. And then I got to say, the challenges were really good.
Yeah.
And I even would argue that was what made you and Amy so good when we did Reality Bites Back.
Yeah.
Because you guys were so used to the challenge part, it didn't fuck with your head.
Right.
Like it fucked with my head, it fucked with Red's head, it fucked with Kyle Cease's head, and I think drove him out of stand-up, to be dead honest with you.
Oh, you think that drove him out of stand-up?
Dude.
Oh, I do remember how great, because it was that first moment where somebody could be eliminated.
Yeah.
And he was like he was the guy that got eliminated.
He was, for those of you that don't know, Theo and I were on a TV show called Reality Bites Back.
Reality
on
Bites Back
Comedy
was a
Central.
great cast. Bert, Donnell Rawlings, Amy Schumer, Mo Mandel, Red Grant,
Kyle Cease, Jeff Garcia, who left right away.
Jeff Garcia, who left right away.
Chris Fairbanks. I think that's it.
That might be it.
Yeah, but we all thought we were coming in to play like a joke thing, and then they like secluded us.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Oh, this is a contest," and then we realized I want to say I always jack the number up because I don't remember, but I want to say it was like $14,000 an episode. It was something ridiculous.
$7,500 an episode we got, which was crazy money then.
Yeah, it was crazy money. It still is.
It still is good money.
$7,500 an episode is not bad money. Like
no, not now.
And so, and I remember Donnell was like. Donnell and Red.
He was trying to buy his mom like a new heart or something, wasn't he?
I don't think so.
Well, he's told me he was.
Really?
Yeah, he secretly told me at like a private meeting.
Oh, is that the first elimination when you had to pick someone?
I think to try to keep him on. He said his mom needed a new, whatever you get from diabetes when you're black. I don't know what that is. That ruins your liver, I think.
Oh, fuck.
But she didn't. It was a lie. It was a great lie.
You won the first challenge, and you had to vote someone off. And you had to pick who went home.
It was Kyle Cease.
Yeah, and you picked Kyle Cease. And Kyle was like, he had made hats for every week. That was one of the hardest I've ever laughed. And it's what I miss about hanging out with black comics was fucking breaking balls. But do you remember Kyle Cease?
He had made hats for every week.
It said week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7.
Oh, my God.
And he had like a bag of hats. And he was going to wear them on the show. Do you remember he walked up the first day and he had his week 1 hat on, and Donnell Rollins goes, "That's right, son, you are the week 1." That was
Donnell's the funniest. Can you believe the talent that they had on that show? Whoever cast that should cast everything.
Yeah, well, there was the people that cast Biggest Loser.
Some of the most talented, and I'm not even including myself, but that's some of the most talented comics that I know, and the funniest. I mean, I think you and Donnell Rawlings are two of the funniest comics that I've always ever thought. And yeah, the rest of that crew, all amazing.
We laughed hysterically. I mean, we laughed off camera more than on camera. On camera, the show was so manipulated that we didn't get a chance to be absolutely hilarious. But I remember laughing. I remember going in thinking you were like, oh yeah, I know Theo from Road Rules. I love doing Road Rules, and I had heard you were getting into comedy, and then I was like, oh cool, you had done like Last Comic Standing, 3 or something, or 4.
Yeah, it was the one with Josh Blue.
Yeah, and so I was like, oh cool, he's getting into comedy, and we didn't do any comedy. No one saw anyone's comedy, but you were so fucking funny, hanging out man. Like me, you. I mean, I remember I had 2 crews of people that I hung out with exclusively. It was either Red and Donnell, or it was like you and Amy and Fairbanks.
Yeah.
And I would go, but that was it, like who I loved being around. Like I love being around Donnell because I used to party with Donnell in New Orleans.
He's so funny.
In New York.
He's so funny.
He's so funny on like a effortless, not trying to be funny. Have you seen his baby?
I've seen pictures. Yeah, I did see pictures. He showed me pictures of his baby
throwing deuces.
I didn't see the deuces.
Oh my god, his babies.
He loves that kid.
But he's such an interesting person because I always say this. Do you remember the time he told Mo Mandel he wasn't funny? Mm-mm. You don't remember this?
Mm-mm.
We're in a van. We're on a van. We're on the 101 by the Universal Sheridan.
Yes, and Donnell had been reading the newspaper. I do remember that.
And Mo was cracking jokes. Donnell's sitting in the front seat, and Mo's like first row. I'm behind him with Amy, and Donnell's and I think it was Amy, and you and Fairbanks are right behind me, and Donnell's and Mo's running bits. Oh
yeah,
and that's something black comics fucking hate. You do not run bits by a black comic. Just do your shit on stage.
Yeah.
And Donnell said, Mo, has anyone ever told you you're funny? And we just like grabbed our seats, and Mo was like, yes. And he goes, who? And he goes, my mom. And we fucking lost it. He's like, Mo, I don't think you're funny. I don't think you should be a comedian. Wow. I laughed so hard on that set. I remember we all had such a tight bond. And towards the end, it was like me, you, Red, Donnell, Amy, Fairbanks. I think that was it. Really,
it was fun.
We had a really tight bond, and that Michael Ian Black would show up, and I remember him being wide-eyed, just listening to us fucking destroy him and each other. And I became friends with Michael Ian Black from that. Like,
Did you?
Yeah. I still text back and forth with him or tweet.
The talent that came through that show. Lunell came through and was a guest. Lavelle Crawford.
I ran into Lunell at Montreal.
She just did our podcast. She just had my podcast.
Oh, I fucking love Lunell.
She's nuts.
I love Lunell.
She's marrying like a Frenchman or something.
Yeah.
As soon as her divorce goes through, she said,
"Fucking Lunell's the best." I thought she hated me, and I got naked with her in a tub.
Oh,
you got naked in the tub too. It was me, you, and Red. Remember that?
Fuck no, I don't.
Yes, you do. We were up for elimination. We had gotten granted immunity on the banana challenge.
Yeah.
Talk about racist. They have pictures of Lunell's face, open mouth, and we had to put bananas in it.
Yeah.
Fucking bananas in it. Like, it had her looking like, and we were just shoving bananas down her throat, and we got immunity, and our prize was we got to take a bath with Lunell.
Yes.
And I remember Lunell was like grabbing all around, and I was like, I'll take my fucking pants off. And I took my pants off, she took her panties off, and we're all in the tub. And I remember the president of Comedy Central at the time, Lauren Correo. Lauren Correo?
Yeah, that was her.
Was
Laura? Yeah.
I can't remember.
Correo is right.
Correo. She was waiting out. She was watching, like, in Video Village, and I'm naked pressing my dick against the shower window, and she was like, we can't use any of this. Oh, God. That was fucking insane.
They should play that show. I wonder if they're legally allowed to air that show again. Because think of the talent they have on that fucking show.
Dude, I would get fired from Travel Channel.
Why?
Do you remember how I got voted off?
Oh, I definitely remember, bro. When you did the only white dude fucking spin, land, one leg out, dick flop
Naked
on a table in front of Greg Louganis. And this was a man who had survived AIDS, and he could barely deal with it.
AIDS and 2 bankruptcies, and he fucking walked out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
He couldn't deal with it.
They should fucking re-air that. I'm gonna call Gary Mann at Comedy Central and see if they can re-air that, because they get ratings through the fucking roof.
Now they've
got the biggest comic in the country, and Amy Schumer's on that too.
I know.
But I remember, and this is the only thing I'll say about that, and then we'll leave it, because I'm sure I've talked about that ad nauseum. Is that
no? I love the fact that you have so much of strong memory of it.
I have a really strong memory of that, because I really, genuinely had. I think it was the first time I worked for Comedy Central, and that they offered me an hour special and a half an hour special.
Wow.
Based off that, and I was like, what? And they were like, we'll do whatever you want. And I was like, fuck. I remember being like, and I thought they hated me. But that show was just a straight offer. There was no auditioning. They just called me up. They're like,
best show
do you want to do it? And I was like, what? But that was my introduction to Comedy Central. That's when I started working with them.
Mine too. Well, I was just such a young comic. Like, I was just enamored to be around
young
guys
comic.
like you, Donnell. I kind of bonded with Mo because we were the youngest dudes on there, me, him, and Amy.
Yeah.
And everybody else had been in the game at least 5 years.
Mo's, by the way, we all broke his balls. He was the youngest, but he was also the greenest. He was still doing the open mic scene, I think, in San Francisco. And so he just was, and he was so young, he didn't know how to. It's one of the lessons in life. If you're young and you're hanging out with guys that are older than you in talent, maybe you've been doing it longer, the biggest life lesson is just talk half as much as you think you should talk. And I've always been a victim of that. And that's why guys like Patrice would always fucking destroy me, was because I thought I should be talking. And then in my early days of cocaine, never mind. That explains the rest of that story.
Freud getting out of your nose,
the rest of that story. So, but yeah, I remember Donnell and I'd known Donnell for probably maybe 10 years before that. I'd known Donnell since I started stand up, and we did the last episode, and the final was you and Amy in the finals.
Yeah,
and at this point, I think you guys had, I'm not going to say yes or no, but I think you guys agreed to split the money.
Yeah, we made an agreement
to split the money, whoever won. So you had no emotional attachment to winning or losing, either of you.
Mm-mm.
And you guys were so fucking funny that we couldn't stop laughing. We couldn't stop laughing in the final scene where we're all blowing out candles and we vote for a name. Donnell and I were literally doubled over. And I remember thinking, man, when he figures out his voice, he's going to be destructive on stage. Because you were so young, I was like, right now he's just still trying to. It's like, I was talking to Rogan about it one time. We were talking about when you're young and doing stand-up, you have a toolbox and you're looking for any fucking tool that works. And once that one tool works, you just hammer the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
You're using the screwdriver to do everything, hammer and fucking take things out of the wall. Like, that screwdriver works. And I remember saying to Donnell, I was like, when Theo figures it out for him, not for what is working,
right,
but for what he wants to do, I go, he's going to be destructive. And I literally, I want to say I haven't seen you to stand up since then, and then the other night.
Yeah.
And man, I literally was jealous. I was jealous because I was like, I'm doing something. I'm not doing it enough. You have a stride on stage, or a cadence on stage, or a voice on stage now that is that of an expert, someone who's been doing it the 10,000 hours, and fucking fearless and so unique to you. And
Thanks,
I
man.
remember you tell those stories, and me and Donnell would be doubled over, and you didn't understand why they were funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember the story about when you were a kid, you were made like a lemonade and vodka, and you took your dad's car,
Yeah.
and you went to Thomasville, but you got lost, so you decided to go home, and you got pulled over.
Oh, yeah, I got pulled over by the cops.
Wait, the cop said,
He goes, where are you going? I was heading to a party, and we couldn't get there, right?
Yeah.
And he said, where are you going?
And you were
at that point, we were on my way back home.
Yeah, so you said.
So I said Covington, because that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, where are you coming from? And I said, Covington, because that's where I'd left from, dude. And it was an honest story.
But you weren't trying to be funny. You just told us.
I was just telling the dude the truth, man.
And we were laughing so hard. And, man, you fucking destroyed the other night. Destroyed.
Dude, that's funny, man, because I thought the same thing after you. When I saw you up there, I was like, fuck, man, I do not want to go after Bert, man. He's just so lovable. And I didn't think you were going to get that audience because it was a weird audience. It was
13,
like children.
13-year-olds.
It was a Mexican children with mustaches. Tell
them. I mean, tell everyone listening what the show was for.
Yeah, the show was for. We did an episode for a new show that's going to be on Ovation where they partner YouTube celebrities with comedians. Yeah. And our goal was to get these YouTube celebrities to get on the stage and have this new voice on stage and be able to do stand-up, basically, right?
Technically, yeah.
And Bert had... Who was your celebrity?
Shit. My celebrity was Waleed Muhammad.
Oh, I loved him.
He was great, man. I thought he was fantastic. I'm making sure we got us both in it.
No worries. Yeah, I thought Waleed was fantastic. I thought he was a nice kid. I even texted with him the other day. And
I think he did, and I think he did a fantastic job. I really think that he did. He did. I would say, well, I mean, out of the week of people that did it, I think he was in the top two. Top two, really. I mean, I think it was. Really, it was your guy was easily the most comfortable on stage.
Most comfortable on stage, but also I felt like he'd read that story or told it a million times. Though.
Really?
Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. He was definitely the most comfortable on stage, and he was the most famous.
And he was using what tool, like you just said, he was using whatever tool he knew worked.
Yeah.
He was using that tool.
Man, he was, and like, what's his name?
He was way famous.
Fousey? Fousey Tube.
Did you see him afterwards getting mobbed in the parking lot?
I ended up having to go upstairs.
I've seen Lindsay Lohan get mobbed. I've seen the Kardashians. This was almost equal to Kardashian-ness.
Are you serious?
Mobbed against the wall. 150 people, like, screaming, trying to get video with him. Screaming.
He was... I'm going to be dead honest. They wanted us... The whole point of the thing was we hang out with these YouTube stars, and they help us with our online presence, and we help them with stand-up. But it was really us just helping them with stand-up.
That's all it was, yeah.
I mean, there's nothing... I was under the impression there's nothing you can tell me that I don't already know.
Right.
Post fucking videos daily and fucking just talk to your fans and be open. Be your own reality show, and people will come to it. But I learned a lot from that Fousey Tube guy. Like... Because he was very sweet. He wasn't a dick. He didn't have to be cool. He's fucking rich, and CIA just signed him, and he rolled into the green room with a fucking massive posse.
Did he?
He rolled in the green room with 7 agents and a 4-person real legit posse of editors and assistants.
Jesus.
And I said something. I was fucking around with him, and I was like, what's the? I go, 80. He has a video that has 87 million views. I said, and I watched it. It's not brilliant.
I thought it was fake. Yeah, some of it seemed fake to me.
A little bit. And I said, what's the key? And he goes, dude, my vlog. Just talking to people. Just persistence. Every day. So I was listening. I was like, yeah. So I made like a mock video vlog that I saw, like this girl Miranda or whatever the famous people are. I don't know if it's not Miranda Sings, but like I did a mock one and I put it online, and I was like, that's done. I did it basically for Neil, who was the executive producer of that. And then I go to Philly.
I love Neil. He's nice.
I go to Philly and I pull in and Tom Segura had sold out 5 shows before without press. And I walked in, I was like, and I looked and I was like, well, I'll probably sell out 5 shows, and I had sold out 4. And in my head, and I had always sold out about 4. But I figured, like, well, Tom, I've been doing it longer than Tom. I've been going to that market longer than Tom. I called Tom, and I had a very honest conversation with Tom, just, like, vulnerable. I don't need to pretend to be famous to Tom. Tom knows exactly who the fuck I am. And I said, man, what did you do? And he goes, man, I got to be honest with you. I think it's my podcast. And I think it's the fact that I do it regularly.
Right.
That, like, people can count on me releasing it on Tuesday and Thursday, and then they can listen on Tuesday and Thursday. On Tuesday and Thursday, they got something to look forward to. And he goes, I stopped having guests. It's just me and Push, and we just have a good time with it. And he goes, I think that's what my numbers are. Then I talked to the owner of the Helium, and he was like, oh, it's Tom's podcast, man.
Wow.
He goes, Tom, when Tom mentioned on his podcast, all the shows sold out. And I was like, wow. So then I started going, all right, so Fousey was talking about his vlog. Tom's talking about his podcast. There's something with regularity, with a number of content. Joe's like that, with putting out 2 podcasts, 3 podcasts a week.
He does that many a week. Wow.
Joe's got this game locked down.
How's he to talk to? He just started kind of like, well, give me a little bit more FaceTime, you know?
He's great. He's great.
You see, he doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, does he?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But that's fine. You know?
Yeah, I don't think he does.
Yeah, he might not believe in Jesus Christ, but...
I mean, I think he believes.
And I'm drinking out of his mug right here. Look,
I think he believes in a higher power. I mean, he's done DMT, so he's spoken to the aliens.
Really?
He's here's the thing though. He doesn't shit on people for faith at all.
Right.
And he doesn't mock people for faith. He thinks everyone's got their thing. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for Joe. I'm not going to speak for Joe.
No, not at all. This is hyperbole. You're just kind of a, you know.
But he's amazing, man. He's like really inspirational. And he kind of, he loves stand-up, and he loves stand-ups, and he loves the art of what we do. And so if that is your passion, you immediately connect with him immediately, because that's his passion. His passions right now are hunting, MMA, and fucking stand-up, and probably...
cars. He has a new car that he really loves.
And so, like, he's a fascinating guy. And
I gotta try and talk to him a little bit more.
Don't even worry about it. Like, that's the thing about Joe, is that if you try to talk to him... I think that's when Joe's like, I get it. But if he finds something interesting in you, or if he connects with you on a real level, then you forge he doesn't want people that want to be on his podcast. Once again, I'm not speaking for Joe.
Yeah, no, and I'm not thinking like that. I just kind of get nervous around him. Like, there's some guys you just get, they're,
It's like Bill Burr.
Yeah, you get nervous about some guys I won't talk to. I just don't know them. I don't know how to.
Well, then don't. And that's the weird part, is that don't. Is like that when we go back to that Mo Mandel thing.
Yeah.
Just don't speak half as much.
That's what I do. I just don't say it. I just.
You're a pretty legit person in your feelings. Hey. Like you don't.
Yeah, I don't force it. I don't try to. I'm not trying to be a superstar. I don't need to. I'm not trying to get shit out of people.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, he's been I've been really blessed to like have guys like him and Joey and Ari and Duncan. And, I mean, like, a bunch of people kind of entered my life at a time where I was under the impression that I didn't have any friends. And I was fucking... And they just kind of showed up more like... I remember Joe telling me one time before I went on stage, we just gotten pretty fucked up and did a shot, too. And I was about to go on stage, and I I remember feeling like I didn't know anybody, but I did know them, but I didn't know them. He just came up and he's like, hey, man, just so you know, you're a really great guy. I was like, what? Because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, am I a piece of shit? And he was like, no, you're a really great guy. And if you let good guys into your life, they'll help you be even a better guy, and you'll be shocked at how happy your life is.
Wow.
And it was like, but like, that's the kind of guy he is. He's not the kind of guy that's like, dude, fucking, like, catchphrase something, or fucking what you'd imagine. He's just a very sweet guy. Like, called me one time, I was in Vietnam riding motorcycles, and he goes, what are you doing? I was like, I'm riding Russian motorcycles through rice paddies in Vietnam. And most people would just ha, 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 and then hang up. And then Joe's like, takes that time, and he's like, hey, man, okay, stop what you're doing. Stop right now. He's like, you need to write about this, man. This is what you need to be talking about on stage. You need to be exploring this shit, because this is fascinating to me.
Right.
And then you think, well, he didn't have to say that. And then you start going, well, fuck, I need to write about this. And then you find yourself writing about it, and you're like, well, fuck, that's what a friend's about, is like helping me get to the next level in my career.
Yeah.
Not trying to better themselves off of me, or it's like, hey, man, I'd love to hear your point of view of what you're doing right now. Talk about Vietnam. Like, so that's he's cool. Fucking one of the greatest guys I know. And like Joey Diaz called me last Sunday night, and he's like, dog.
I love him.
Dog. We're taking. I called late. I landed in L.A. and I come in from Philadelphia. I'd seen he had called twice, but I missed his call, and I was on a plane, so I was like, fuck it. So I called him. He goes, oh, now the superstar calls. Dog, you missed it. We were taking acid. I go, Joey, on Sunday night? And he was like, yeah, me, Ari, and Eddie Bravo. Although Eddie Bravo's not taking acid. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, you missed it, man. I'll call you tomorrow. And then you look at Joey's like Periscope, and there's a 6 a.m. video of him fucking smoking weed after he'd been taking acid the night before. And I looked; it was 8 hours before his last Periscope.
Wow! So
like, he's a fucking fascinating guy.
I just got introduced to him recently. Whenever the Comedy Store changed managers, Yeah. And they brought him back, bro. He's another world, bro. He's another world. He's inspiring. And I always go after him. So it's like I get to see him every time, really.
He is inspiring. He really is inspiring.
And he says whatever the fuck he wants, dude. He says stuff about gays, blacks, Jews, midgets.
He says what?
Dead people.
Oh, he's been to prison. Have you ever heard his my favorite one of the? I don't even know if he does it on stage. One of my favorite things he's ever said is he was talking about black people, and he was like, he just said it very flippantly to me, and he was like, "Dog." I asked him what prison was like, and he goes, "Dog." If you think black people are allowed in the movies. And I literally was like, and by the way, this is one of those things I've gotten from all those guys, is that it's not about tagging people's jokes or helping people write jokes. It's about stopping them and going, hey, just so you know, that's fucking genuinely one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Right. You've got to say that on stage. Because a lot of times, I think, and you're definitely one of these people, is you say funny things, and we all laugh, but no one's stopping you going, hey, man, like when you were young, no one's like, Theo, that's what you need to be talking about on stage. Joey's like that. Joey says things. He said to me one time, he goes, like very contemplatively, he goes, I have a big dog, Priscilla, and he goes, yeah, man, I don't know what it was about dogs. When I first got to this country, I got bit by dogs like 6 times the first week. I go, really? He goes, yeah. I mean, Bert, I'm not even lying. One dog passed me and then realized it was me and came back and bit me. Like a dog passed me and fuck it. And so but he's the best. He called me last night. He was like, Ralphie and I want to come over to podcast. And I had just gotten in town, and I try to be real healthy when I'm in town.
Right.
And I was like, and I don't mind like drinking tonight, but I don't usually drink at home anymore.
Right.
And so I was like, and if Ralphie and Joey come over, they're going to be smoking
have a beer too.
A massive amount of weed in my man cave. And so I'm definitely going to have a beer. And so I was like, all right, how about tomorrow night? So I think he's going to come in. Ralphie might come over tonight.
Really?
Yeah, and just fucking
What is today? Monday? Tuesday?
Is it Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday.
Shit, man. I might text you later and be a fly on the wall.
Oh, if they come over, yeah. If they come over, I'll text you.
I know Joey well. I mean, I see him at the store all the time. You know, he's doing that sweaty hug on stage, and I'm always like, is his heart going to stop soon? That's what I think.
He's fucking shockingly healthy.
Is he?
Yeah, because you assume he's a big guy. He smoked, he did heroin, he did coke, but like he goes to jiu-jitsu every day. He doesn't drink. He eats pretty fucking healthy.
He loves his cats, too.
He loves his cats. He smokes a ton of weed. You know, he's one of those guys that, like, I just love him. I absolutely love him.
Oh, I love him to death. I just wish he asked me to be on his podcast once, and I couldn't come. And then now I've texted him a couple times and, told him when I was around, but I haven't heard back from him. So I know he's probably just getting busier, too.
Yeah.
I think things are sparking up again for him.
I think so. But anyway, what I was saying about that Fousey tube is I then went and I was like, I started looking at vlogs that I liked, and I was like, okay, there's a couple things I really dig. I like this Mr. Ben Brown guy, so I was like, I'll make a vlog like that. So I made this vlog of like follow me around, little GoPro in your hand and just shooting it, and it fucking did really well. Got like 2,000 downloads instantly, and I was like, okay. So, and then I read the feedback. Everyone's like, I really like that. You need to do more of that shit. So I was like, that's where my head's at right now, is putting video of these podcasts up. Do that, keep doing that, doing some vlogs, and then posting shit of like Travel Channel will give me videos to post. So like I just posted this one of me accidentally buying a calf. Like I put that on there. And so
a calf, the animal?
Yeah, I was thinking that I'd bid on the calf. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, go to my YouTube page. My YouTube page is A Kreischer. But I thought we'd jack up the price for the guy we were working for. Mm-hmm. So I thought the calf would come in and I'd bid. And then whoever wanted it would have to outbid me. That's not how that works. It's basically you bid if you want it. Because there's so many calves.
You got a calf. What do you do with it? Is it here? It's not here.
No, so I bought it. I ended up putting one bid in. And the guy goes, sold trip flip. And I fell up. I've never laughed harder in my life. Because I had to pay like $1,300 for this calf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I gave it to the farmer and just let him keep it.
Is he going to raise it for you?
Yeah, he's going to raise it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so... But
so you have a calf somewhere?
Yeah, down in Texas.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Houston, outside Houston. I could go visit it
for just $1,300 a year.
$1,300. No, I don't even. He feeds it for me.
That's awesome. Dude.
Yeah, he's $1,300.
You got to get a picture and put it up in the kitchen.
I should. I've got a picture of him. And it's a boy because I found out he'd been castrated after I bought him.
Oh, that's fine.
And so I took a picture of him when he was in the car. It's one of the funnier. It's one of the hardest I've ever laughed because I realized I did it, and I was like, I was like, oh my God, I've really just fucked. It's one of those moments where you realize you fucked up.
Oh, dude, that's all the time, dude.
So what was the transition from when we started? Like, what was the path that got you to where you're at now? Like, what was the thing? Where did you get strong in stand up?
It's a good question. I mean, it was tough in the beginning because people knew me from reality television, so that was tough. Or knew me from Road Rules, so it was like, and that show had a huge following at the time because there was only 2 reality shows. It was that and The Real World. So that was MTV. Like, their audience watched that. So I think it took a while to get away from that. So for a long time in the beginning, I was just almost just attacking people on stage because I needed them to not think about that and just fucking hear me,
Yeah.
And then I guess it was just being on the road a good bit. And then recently I've tapped into stories from my childhood from growing up. Because, I just realized that I grew up in just a weird place. And it's one thing that's unique to me is my childhood and my perspective of it, Yeah,
you grew up in...
I grew up in Covington, Louisiana. And our town's famous. Lee Harvey Oswald went to our middle school. Pistol Pete Maravich lived and died in our town.
Really?
2 good shooters. That's the joke that I use off of that. But Tulane University had their primate testing facility in our town. That's where most people worked at, right? So, and in 1994, 70 infected monkeys got out in our town, and the police came to YMCA summer camp and let the oldest kids leave to help them look for these monkeys, right?
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I remember guys, they had guys with rebel flags in their truck. I'm like, it's not a racial thing, guys. These are fucking 70. These are chimpanzees and macaws that are loose around town. This isn't a gang that's moved in. But I remember me and a couple of other kids. I still remember having a wet bathing suit on, cornering a fucking chimpanzee outside of a Kenny Rogers Roasters with a police officer and 3 other kids, rah, 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 by this drive-through, and this fucking fat elf of a woman honking at us like we're ruining her, dream shake she's buying or whatever, and her fucking cornbread while we're trying to fucking save our town from a fucking... Who knows what this monkey had?
From a
maybe
fucking
yellow
Planet
fever.
of the Apes apocalypse.
Yeah, maybe something Walter Reed missed. Could have been yellow fever.
What kind of town was it? Was it out where, west, north, or east of?
North of New Orleans, by about 40 miles, probably. And it was just a little more rural back then. And we just had, my dad was real old when I was born.
How old were you when you were born?
My dad was 70 when I was born.
He was 70 when you were born.
So I had this weird perspective, I think, of things, and this real self-defeating, life didn't want me or God doesn't want, I'm barely here, So it gave me kind of this, and my dad was dying, because at that age you're just dying, you're still living, but you can't teach a kid a bunch of stuff or whatever you teach. Everything's
skewed fatalistically. I remember we'd walk to church and I would have to make sure, even though my dad didn't know, I was making sure it was safe for him to walk. I remember being 5 years old maybe and just so my focus is on this instead of enjoying, jumping in the ditch of leaves or whatever, just shit, just things where you're it opens things up pretty vividly immediately, I guess. So it gives you kind of a little bit of this weird look. But I started to really invest my thoughts into the place that I came from. Weird shit. I remember on the weekends, they had this highway right next to our apartment building, and I'd go out there, and me and my buddy would go out there. This kid, Jeremy Sumrall, and he was born with a deficiency. He was born with I don't know any other way to put it. Really, he was born with a wrist in his neck. He kind of had his neck could do more than our necks can. He was born with a wrist in his neck.
His neck could do more than our necks can, man.
Really?
Yeah. And and we'd go out on Saturday and pull these dead dogs off this highway and bury them, because I grew up. I really feel like I grew up in the stray animal belt of Louisiana, and they don't really have this anymore because everybody has pets now. But they had a long time where there was just, I felt like thousands of strays running around. Joey Diaz, he got bit by animals. I got jumped by a bunch of cats on my birthday once, dude. I'm not even joking, dude. And one of them, I swear to God, Some of them got me on the ground, and one of them came off a fucking rooftop from next door. I swear to God, I still remember a couple of them were getting me and looking back and seeing one come from something in the air. And they had tons of stray animals where I was from. You had to infuse that in everything you did, wherever you went, or if you were going to bike or play ball.
I got jumped by a bunch of
Cats. And that'll make you feel like a little bitch, too. I mean, first of all, your dad's dying, and now there's cats jumping you. It's just really... But anyway, so I was like, we used to pull these bodies off of the interstate and bury them off the highway, right?
Holy shit.
Because dogs were getting hit there. I mean, literally, they were fucking piling up. You know? And I remember one time we found a bunch of nudie mags in the ground. Somebody had hid a bunch of, pornography in the dirt. And I remember we got down, and somebody we realized I'd never seen any sex before, right? So somebody cut out all the pictures of the actual insertion points in these magazines. There was probably 11 pornography magazines. Club, some of the older ones, Club, finer ones I thought, actually.
Yeah.
Penthouse. But where the exact penis and vagina insertion point happened, and in every picture somebody cut that out.
That's odd.
And taking it with them, I guess. And I don't know if they did it because they didn't want people to see that, or they wanted to have it all, But I remember just weird shit like that, and that's when I started realizing this shit didn't happen to everybody. Like, for some reason, God put all this weird shit in front of me, and so those are the things that I need to focus on. And that's when I started thinking that I became a little bit more confident because I know what I'm talking about, I think.
What do you mean?
Like, I know what I'm explaining a place that I know,
Yeah.
It's not like I'm trying to be like...
Oh, when you started talking about where you grew up on stage, you got more confidence. You knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, I knew what I was talking about. So that just helped with my confidence. So now I can tell some older jokes and bits, and there's more confidence there. But now I'm also being able to just tell new stories and still keep that same perspective that I had with these other bits.
Was there racism in Covington?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of racism. Dude, I remember one time, so I was friends with this kid named Devin Deku because I actually really joined Black Humanity for a while when I was young. I really...
What is it with Black Humanity?
Well, just like I used to ride my bike to school, right? Because I lived in this poor neighborhood and I didn't want to get on the bus and kids see where I was from. I didn't want to get off the poor bus at school. So I would ride my bike to school, and it was about 5 miles, right? And this was like in middle school, So like... But I'd go through the black neighborhood, because our neighborhood was white and black, and white at one end, black at the other end. So I'd go through there, and a lot of the blacks would get on my bike, and they honestly used to call me the nigger bus, is what they would call me. And they would be like, the nigger bus is here. And they would all get, like 3 or 4 of them would get on my bike and be on my shoulders and sitting on the front. Tall blacks, too. Like this one kid named Jonathan Smith, this kid had to be, I swear to God, he was 9 feet tall, man. And he fucking made me ride him. I literally remember the back tire he was so fucking heavy, the back tire on my bike would come off, which made me wonder, how's this bike even having any traction on the road? But then they'd have somebody on the pegs on the back and like piled up.
Of like a Kembe Mutombo sitting on your handlebars and your fucking bike being up.
And I didn't call myself the nigger bus. That's what they called me.
Yeah.
And, but then it was like, okay, these are my buddies.
That's the interesting thing about the N word, in my opinion, is that there are experiences that we've all had in life where that word has been used, and in a weird way, and the sanitization of story of the word of this, like, take it out everywhere. And Louis C.K. doesn't do it at all. I have a great story that involves the word, and I don't say it on stage just because it's so volatile. And I go, fuck, man. I wish I had more balls, or maybe I wish I had nothing to lose. That's my problem. Is I have a lot to lose.
Yeah, you have a wife, kids, you have TV shows.
And so I just go. I know I know I could say it, and no one would ever think there's any hatred in my heart. Like when you say it, I don't see that as hate. I see that as a little white kid riding a bike through a black neighborhood, and that's what they called you. And for you to sanitize that takes away the meat of that story. It takes away that story. It takes the balls off of it.
Yeah, it's not fair sometimes these days, and I think it's starting to change where we're getting in an environment where you can see who's educated about things and who isn't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And I would never use it in a. I mean,
you'd never use it. You would never use it.
I wouldn't use it towards somebody to be mean to them.
That's what Greg Fitzsimmons says. Saying it and using it are two different things.
That's a good point.
He goes, I'll say it. I'll say it because I'm a grown up, and I'm not. You're not going to tell me what not to say in life. If that word is in this story, and it makes that story richer, or you can see it better, then I'll say it. I'm not going to use it. I'd never use it.
Yeah.
I've never used it. And I was like, that's really fascinating, Greg. And
yeah, it's interesting. In comics, we want to be able to use every word, and we're wordsmiths.
Yeah.
We want to be able to use everything. So then, but I remember, I became friends with this French black kid named Devin Deku, right, in our town. And I remember I'd go over to his house, and we'd go in his house, and it was cool to just be like in a black kid's house and just kind of see what their life was like, and real intimate, and like, and I remember bathing with his sisters in this tub in their front yard. And what was it? Oh, God, I can't remember what this one. I think this dude might have been a pedophile, but he kept yelling something at us. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, Devin and I went fishing one time. Sometimes we'd go get like lunch meat or whatever and go fish, right?
Yeah.
Well, one time, these white kids are walking across this, literally these stand-by mirrors are going over this train track over this water where we're fishing down by the river. And they start throwing rocks at us and calling us the N-word.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to yell to them, I'm not the N-word, you know?
Guys!
Well, like,
Guys,
hey,
are you colorblind?
just one of us.
Just him!
Yeah.
I'll back off!
And Devin, my buddy Devin, is dying that I'm trying to, like, because I'm also, I think, I'm mildly doing it to entertain him, you know?
Yeah.
So it was, but at the same time, dodging rocks from these racist kids who obviously have poor eyesight, you know? So I don't know. I mean, just things like that, just growing up in a place that was unique. So that's what I've started to incorporate, keeping that mentality.
Well, it's so good because it does kind of, I like that. No one's ever going to tell a getting jumped by cats story.
Yeah.
And that's so real. Like everyone's got their version of that in life. Like everyone's got a time. I used to tell a story about this kid, Corky Gaines, who's on Twitter now. His name's, I think it's Cork Gaines. But he was one of those kids, like you always got one of those kids in life who maybe just doesn't see the big picture of things. I remember, and there's one of the stories I tell is him rolling in dog shit when we were playing Smear the Queer when we were kids.
Oh, Smear the Queer was the only game in town.
That was the only game. You throw the ball in for those of you that grew up in political correctness, I don't know what you called it, but that's what we called it when we were kids.
That's all
and I'm talking about, I only probably called it that for just when I was a kid, for first and second grade, up to like fourth grade. You'd throw the ball in the air. Whoever caught it was the queer, and everyone tried to attack him. And so Corky Gaines got the ball, and all my friends in that, and Corky lived around the corner, but all the kids on my street were all like fourth grade, fifth grade kids, and they tackled him, and he rolled in dog shit, which no one does anymore. No one rolls in dog shit.
No, not anymore.
It just doesn't happen because everyone picks it up. Back in the day,
it up, dude. Yeah. And it turned white, and then it went to heaven.
Yeah. And Corky Gaines rolled on his neck, and he was like, "What is it?" And everyone, it was like an apocalypse movie. Everyone went inside, like shut their doors, locked their blinds, and he was like walking down the center of the street like he had a bomb around him. Help! But
oh my God.
Corky Gaines had this. I remember one time my mom used to drive him home. If you call my sister right now and go, if you say Corky Gaines, she'll go, "Oh, he smelled like bologna." That's like just immediately.
Oh, I've dated numerous women actually over the years whose breath smells like different kinds of meat.
Yeah, I dated a chick who smelled like bologna. Like the first night, I was like, she must have had a bologna sandwich. I'll give her a pass. And then the next night, I was like, man, maybe she's just into bologna. Maybe that's her fucking lunch. And then I spent the night at her house one night. We woke up in the morning. She's like, "What do you want to do for lunch?" I was like, "Fuck it, I'll take a bologna sandwich." She's like, "I don't have bologna," and I was like, "Oh fuck, that's what you smell like." But yeah, the Corky Gaines was like, I guess there was these. I want to say there were these Asian people that lived next door to him, and he was like, "They're gone, but they got a pool. We can go swimming in the pool. So get your bathing suit on and come over right after school." So we were like real close, like maybe right around the corner, like. And so I get on my Speedo, get a towel. I go over to his house, meet him and sing. We walk out his front door, and I remember it was like his front door was here. Their fence was like right here, so we walked over to the fence, and he was like, "I'll go check to see if it's safe." So he like opens their fence and then goes around in, and I'm sitting there and the fence is slightly open. All of a sudden the fence flies open and he's like, "Dog!" A huge Doberman Pinscher comes flying after him, and I remember I fucking saw my life flash before my eyes. I was like, "This is how I die," and the dog just ran past me and kept chasing him. He just kept running, and I was like, "What do I?" Like in a weird way, I was like, "Do I just go home now?" And I was like, "I'm not going to chase him." I was like, "Fuck, I'm going," and I just walked home, and then sat on my couch with my towel still over my shoulder. My mom's like, "I thought you were going swimming," and I was like, "No." She was like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, "Give me a second. I think I have PTSD." But those fucking people don't get a
Pool
text.
traumatic stress disorder.
So wait, what was like?
Oh, dude, I remember they had a deaf kid that moved into our town for 3 days, and this group of kids thought he was doing magic because he was always using his hands, but he wasn't doing any magic, and they beat him up.
That's the other thing. I remember, like, people...
And I was like, he's not a magician. They just could not conceptualize. I remember one kid yelling, "You mean this fag ain't got no words in him?" I'm like, are you serious?
What? Yeah, the world... You know, man, the world has changed so fucking globally.
Yeah, I think so, but it's also still pretty real out there in some places, dude. Even places where they're getting the internet.
Even so, like...
Yeah, it's still... I mean, dude, yeah, I could go down to my old town and go in on a Saturday, I think, on the street that I grew up on, and I think you would still see people out living their lives, just, you know, being regular. I remember the day we moved in, there was... You used to have ditch fires in our street, in our town, really, where you burn all your shit in the ditch on the weekend, right? It was like a big...
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't like a pagan thing or anything. You just, instead of waiting for trash to come all the time, you just burn everything in the ditch, right?
Holy
really
shit.
Saves time and really saves... I don't know how bad it is for the environment.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
But it's...
I mean, I think that's what they're doing with it ultimately.
Okay, right. So we're just saving people time, really.
Yeah.
We're cutting corners, honestly. We're ahead of our time.
Yeah.
But somebody threw this old man, Mr. Polito, into the fucking ditch fire. He got in a fight with some younger guy from down the street. Threw a 70-year-old man into a ditch, dude.
Like, but how
the day we pulled up.
The day you pulled up.
There's a fight in the street. This old guy.
There's fires like it's apocalypse, and some guy's throwing old men in. You're
somebody
like,
throwing old men in the street, and then
and your dad's 70 going, life fucking sucks, then you die.
Well, fast forward a couple of years, that man died. Mr. Polito died. Me and my buddy are walking down the street one day. The kid with the wrist in his neck, right?
Yeah.
And some guy's like, "You want to come to a service?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'll go to a service." You know, we didn't know what it was, so we go in the backyard, and this Mr. Polito had died, and they were burying him in this his grandson, I guess who it was, who we'd never even met, was burying him in his backyard, dude. And I guess was then going to collect insurance money. We didn't know that, right? Or collect whatever monies he still had coming in and not label him as dead with the city.
Oh,
so we're
shit.
like, next thing you know, we're sitting there at a freaking funeral, dude. They put him in the backyard, and people are saying prayers and shit.
Wait, how far? Like, how poor did you grow up? Would you say
Poor. We grew up poor, man. I mean, I think our rent was $150 a month. Single mom, toilet hanging through the ceiling.
So your dad passed away.
Dad passed away when I was 16. He was old, but he just didn't have any money. You know, usually your mom fucks an old rich man. You know? My mom had 4 kids with an old poor man.
Wait, what was your dad's story? Was he born in Louisiana?
He was born in Nicaragua. Actually, he was like a missionary. Ended up in Louisiana. And he was a nice man, dude. He was cool.
How old would he be right now?
He would be 106. He had cool stories and everything. You know, he was born in 1910.
Okay.
They had a girl in my junior high class that I told him I had a crush on, and he's like, "Well, I used to hang out with her grandmother Rosemary in the 30s, so
Really?
we've been there." That's what he told me.
Shut up.
He was cool, man. He was a cool guy. He was just old, you know. And he wasn't old when I met him. And he didn't even really get old. He just got cancer and died, but there are things you know.
Died at 86?
Yeah, died at 86. And you just see things on him, and you start to work. You know, it just has you in this weird mind frame. But anyway, they buried Mr. Polito in the backyard. So me and my boy are sitting there at this service, dude, and they asked us to say a few words. I can't remember what I said or what Jeremy said. Probably something about God or Jesus Christ. You know, we didn't know.
Yeah.
And then they put him in the ground, and then fast forward 2 weeks, the coroner shows up. They dug him up, and they arrested the grandson for trying to launder money or whatever.
So what was the you go to high school?
Went to high school, and then I got emancipated when I was 14. I just had a tough time growing up with my mom, and she was just hectic. My mom
What do you mean
delivered.
emancipated? Like you're on your own?
Yeah.
And then where did you go?
And then I went to live with friends. I would take a backpack to school every day, and I would stay with whoever let me stay, man. And I made a lot of good friends that way, and families. Because you literally come into a family immediately, and you're like part of the family as long as the parents will let you stay there, you know?
Yeah.
And that was fun because you're kind of surviving, so you're manipulating the situation a little bit because you're survival instincts. You're young, but you need a place to stay, you know. And then I got a family that let me come stay with them for literally about 3 or 4 years. So that was That was really cool. I had my own room for the first time. Yeah, I mean, we had, so there was some change there. It's funny, I never really thought about a lot of this, but there was some changes there. I don't know, man. It was just
like what changes? What changes?
Like I remember the bathroom was nice. That's like the first thing I remember. Like I remember, like, dang, like they had those fake towels you don't use, Yeah. And I was like, damn, these motherfuckers are rich,
Fake towels that you don't
And the dad
use.
gave me $20 on the weekend for allowance, and it was like, and he came home from work, and the mom came home from work, and it was like they ate dinner, and the mom made some type of shit casserole. And everybody sat at the table and joked a little, and then was an asshole and went to their rooms. But like it was really normal, And so that was pretty cool. I remember going to my room and closing the door and being like, "What are we doing?"
So wait, what? So and at this time, your dad is still alive?
My dad's still alive, yeah, but he lived across a lake at that time, and he was just. Yeah, and I kind of distanced myself a little bit. Not that I wanted to. I was just a teenager.
Yeah. And your mom, what was going on with your mom? Why did you?
My mom was just hectic, man. She just always worked. She was she delivered newspapers and stuff ever since I was young, and she was just stressed out, I think,
And you had 3...
I got 3 siblings, yeah.
Younger
and my brother had moved away to live with my grandparents, and my sister was sick her whole life. She was born with a liver deficiency, and she ended up getting a liver transplant. So most of my mom's affection really went towards her, I think. Yeah. And my dad's, too, really. So,
where are your siblings now?
My siblings now, my sister has 2 kids. She lives out off the interstate in Louisiana. They just had a Halloween party last weekend. She's good. My brother has 2 kids, and my other sister, she keeps bar. They all live in Louisiana.
Really?
Yeah.
And so okay. By the way, I'm fascinated because I've known you for so long and I knew nothing of this.
Yeah.
So wait, so then. You get emancipated. You move in with these people. 16, your dad passes away. You go to the funeral?
Yeah, I went to the funeral, and that was scary because my dad had other family kids that were now in their 70s almost.
Holy shit.
Who were like half siblings of mine, And they didn't acknowledge us at the funeral. They never really acknowledged us as like being his kids or whatever. So I remember the pastor being like, he's survived by his children. He named the kids, and I wasn't even in it. So that put me in a weird spot, I think, where I was like, who am I even? Like, do I even, what's going on?
Are you doing drugs and alcohol this time?
Yeah, we're doing drugs. We're just young kids, eating a little bit of mushrooms. Yeah, I always stayed on. I was smart, though. Thankfully, my mom had us read growing up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My mom was a smart woman. She graduated from Duke University. She just made some bad choices in her life and never had any money. But she was smart, so she put us into that. So me and my siblings were all...
Is your mom still alive?
Smart. Yeah, she's still alive. She's like 65 now. Still delivers.
Oh, she was young when she met your dad.
Yeah, she was 32. She was 32 when I was born, so she was probably 28 when she met my dad.
So then you're doing drugs and alcohol, but not enough to ruin your life. And then do you go to college?
Yeah, I went to college. I went to University of Arizona for a year, and I didn't like it. And then I went back to Louisiana State. And at both, each year, MTV or Bunham Murray Productions had auditions at different campuses around the country. They picked 6 campuses. And one of the campuses that the year I went to college was University of Arizona. So I was walking across campus, and they had auditions for Real World and Road Rules, and I loved the shows, and I went in. And then the next, I didn't get through. And then the next year, I was at LSU, and they had auditions there. And so it's like this thing was following me a little bit. And then I went in and auditioned, and then that kind of, I want to say it changed my life, but it opened my life. One of the producers after the show, so next thing you know, I'll go around the whole country with this Road Rules thing. One of the producers after the show, whose birthday was yesterday, actually, I emailed him and told him happy birthday, Bruce Toms. He said to me, he goes, I think you should move to Los Angeles. I think you could be an actor, And I'd never thought of that in my life, but he was a producer from L.A. and he wore black clothes all the time.
So wait, hold on. So when you get on, they call you and they're like, "We want you to do Road Rules."
Yeah.
This is, by the way, the infancy of the show, but it had already established itself as a hit.
Yeah.
So you're going on to a hit show. You get on Road Rules. Is any of it fucking with your head?
Yeah, I mean, it's just bizarre. It's like, it almost is like, yeah, this would happen, Shit's already weird. I don't, you never know what to expect, kind of.
Yeah.
So then you're in this new adventure. And I think I'd had a wealth of stories growing up to tell them when I went into audition that were like, this guy would be a good candidate. And so, yeah.
And you kind of stayed out of the fray. You weren't really volatile the entire time. You just were kind of having a good time.
Yeah, I just kind of had a good time. Yeah, and I think I was keen in that sense.
Who was on your cast?
This guy named James, who you had mentioned, who was kind of like the American boy.
I keep wanting to Google a picture of you from that because your hair was like different. It was
I had long hair. I'll send you one, man. You can put it up.
I can find it right now. So wait, who was on your cast?
James Latarian.
I remember Latarian.
I'm still friends with both of those guys. This girl Masada, this young African-American girl from here. This girl Holly, who was kind of a bitch at the time, and this girl named Catherine. And so we traveled across America and went to South Africa together.
Shut the fuck up. What a fucking overwhelming experience for a guy now that I know who you are, which they never painted you that way on Road Rules. What season was it?
9. It was in 1999.
Season 9. Jesus. But like, what a fucking life experience to go from growing up poor.
Oh, it was crazy. And then, you know what even capitalized it, honestly, after that really changed my life was, so the head of Bunner Murray, John Murray, and I became friends. And he said they have this thing called Semester at Sea, which is like a floating university that goes around the world. It's a cruise ship. He goes, I think you would really benefit from it. I would love to help you get on there as a student. He goes, I think I can help you get some sort of a scholarship. And so he helped me. And it wasn't a full ride or anything. I had to work in the bookstore, and I still had to pay like $12,000.
But this is when they're shooting Semester at Sea.
No, this was after they were shooting Semester at Sea. But he was familiar with because Road Rules had done Semester at Sea a few years earlier.
Yeah, you did have long hair.
Yeah, I was handsome, I think.
I just remember James. I remember Latarian,
James
too.
was handsome. So was Latarian.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely felt third fiddle, and at that time in my life, I never would have thought I was a handsome kid.
Well, you did. You used to, I just remembered this, you used to put a star right here on your eye.
Yeah, sometimes I had a star on my cheek, actually, and that was...
Can I tell you what? Tell me if this is true?
Yeah.
I was drinking at Saddle Ranch, and the bartender had one on her eye.
Really?
And I said, what is that? I said, there's a guy from Road Rules who does that. She goes, he's my boyfriend. And I was like, what? She's like, he does it to remember himself of me. And I went, oh. I go, you date Theo? And she's like, yeah, he's my boyfriend. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's not true at all. That's so weird.
Yeah, I was like, that's...
They had a kid whenever I remember that I visited one time when my sister was in the hospital that it would always had a star on his cheek.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that I guess that was maybe why I did it. I don't know. Just maybe, I don't know if it reminded me of like being free or being brave or being able to do experiences maybe other people can't do.
So wait, so you did Semester at Sea?
So then John Murray helps me get on Semester at Sea. So next thing you know, I travel around the world on this ship doing Semester at Sea. And so now I've gone from being at home to now I've seen like 13 countries. Fidel Castro came and spoke to us. Desmond Tutu came and spoke to us. Like, now I've like seen India, China, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Cuba,
and that
South
changes
Africa,
your
Brazil.
fucking DNA.
So then it changes your perspective of a lot of things.
It changes who you are.
Yeah.
Going to Vietnam by itself changes your cultural DNA forever.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we came up the fucking Mekong on a cruise ship in the middle of the night. The sun's rising, and we're going up, and it's just like you've seen in all these movies. Like, the foliage is still exactly the same. There's no fucking buildings. You see little fishing lantern boats on the side of you, and you're like, wow, this puts, like, a lot of different people's lives into perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so a lot of things changed, once Road Rules happened, and then I quit doing that stuff and started doing comedy.
Well, you did some of the challenges too.
I did some of the challenges. I did 3 of the challenges until 2005. And
the challenges seemed like they were fun as fuck.
The challenges were fun, but when I first started, it was people like that were doctors that were taking 2 or 3 weeks off of work, and people that were going to college and had families, and young people, but it was a mix. And you sit around at night and play guitar by the fire, and people would drink, and maybe you'd hook up with an older woman, There was the casting changed drastically at a certain point in those shows. Yes.
And it went from people looking for a cool set of life experiences, which honestly two of my favorite people are you and Christina Pajitsky.
Yeah, she's great.
And you
she's
two both were just people that were like, fuck it, why not? Two people that were like, this can be my fucking meal ticket.
Yeah.
And then that's what I think happened, is you stopped getting these guys like Aaron from season 2 of Road Rules, Real World, who never is associated with himself since.
Right.
To these guys who are like, oh, if I'm just like Puck, then I can fucking do this every year.
Right. Yeah, and it changed, and it started to become very much like kind of, I don't want to say to generalize frat life, but it became very much like a frat party every night.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really my scene as much. And also, girls started fighting on the shows, and I didn't want to be around women fist fighting in any sense. Like,
yeah.
I think Ronda Rousey's great, but I don't ever need to see a woman punch another woman. You know, it's just not my thing. And once women started fighting on those shows, I said, I don't want to be associated with this.
And so you just... They called you again, and you were like, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, they called a couple times, and there were fucking definitely times where I was destitute.
Yeah.
But I just stayed with comedy, you know. And
so when did you start doing comedy?
Then I started doing comedy 2 years before I quit doing the Road Rules stuff. So I did quit doing the Road Rules stuff in 2005, so 10 years ago, and I started doing the comedy in 2003.
Did you ever get to do those like those bar appearances?
Yeah, I did the bar crawls.
What was that?
Oh, that's just, I have a great story from that. What time is it, Bert? Just so you know.
It has been an hour.
It's
12:15. What time do you got to get out of here?
12:15?
Yeah.
We're fine. I have to be somewhere at 1, and it's about 25 minutes away.
Okay, perfect. I got to pick up Georgia at 1.
Oh, dude. So the bar crawls are great. So, I mean, fast forward to just to put the whole thing in perspective. 2 weeks ago, we shot a Netflix original over in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
So it's like to go the whole spectrum of where it is now with doing the comedy. You know, it's like, but that shows you, they always say it takes about 10 years to really.
It takes 10 years to figure out your voice. I believe it takes
Longer.
almost 20 to be where Bill Burr and Louis are.
Oh, well, when I saw you the other night, I was like, oh, man, he can just get up in any environment, and he doesn't have the fear that he's not going to be able to be funny in it. I mean, not, you know, saying that you're full of yourself or anything, just from an outsider's perspective of you've worked that hard. It's like watching a woodman chop down even the smallest tree and know he's going to be able to make something out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I fucking need a medium-sized tree. Or I'm not even getting my axe out of the bag. You know what I'm saying? But I saw that the other night in you when you get up on stage, like, it can even be the smallest tree. Here it is. There's 700 Latinos with baby mustaches.
Yeah.
And you're going to do.
All ages 13 to 18.
Yeah. I'm like, how do everybody here have the same mustache? Even the women. And still beautiful. So that was great. But so then what happened? I don't know, man. We did the comedy, got into the comedy. Oh, you had asked me about...
Because like, I always heard that if you did Road Rules,
bar crawls,
you could go and get money to do shit.
You could. So here's what they had for a little while, and I'll tell you this story. So, and I told this on Nick Youssef's podcast, and I didn't realize it was it was interesting. But so they had this thing called the bar crawl where they would take kids from these reality shows and put them onto a bus and take them around the country on a tour bus, a nice bus.
Yeah.
And you would literally show up at a bar. They'd pay you $500 cash a night. You would guest bartend or whatever you wanted to do. You were hooking up with chicks, whatever, bringing them back on the bus, fucking whatever, you know. And then literally at about 3 a.m., you'd pass out on the bus, and the bus would drive 7 hours to the next city, and you would wake up in another city and do it again that night for $500 cash. Same shit show, right? So on this one bus, they always had to have a driver of the bus, right? And this one bus got this kid out of Kentucky who was 23 years old, looked like he was 40 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting up, because I'd sit up by the bus driver and talk to him a little bit, you know? And I remember this kid being like, dude, I don't need to sleep, right? That's what he told me. And now normally a regular person who's not an instigator like myself would go and tell everyone else we have a driver who doesn't like to sleep at all, and I don't think it's safe. But me, I'm like, fuck, no you don't, dude. Fuck, no, you don't need to sleep. And anybody who says...
match your crazy as it is with understanding.
And anybody who says you are, and I had to find a word that would really fuel him being from Kentucky, anybody says you do is probably a queer. Right? Yeah. I told him. And he's like, you're right. Right? So next thing you know, this dude's been up for 2 days, right? And he's told me every story. Like, he has a fat girlfriend somewhere and he has a skinny girlfriend somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Which are most of his stories. But they also had, on this tour bus, they had this other group that they'd brought on to help subsidize some of the costs of the travel. Was this new energy drink that had come out called Hair of the Dog, right? It was called Hair of the Dog, and you drank it before you went to bed, and you wouldn't be hungover. And to push hair...
Did it work? Did it work?
I have no idea. I don't think any of them have ever worked, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The rule is drink a glass of water and don't jerk off, and you'll feel way better in the morning, right? So... but anyway, to push Hair of the Dog, they'd brought on this older couple who were in their 40s to do karaoke at a neighboring bar that was a little more chill than the bar we were partying at. So you had this older couple on the bus, right? And they were like older. They had like kids, and they were like, and so we're bringing chicks on and banging in the middle of the night, and like everybody's raging. Nothing too insane, but you know, anything you do on a tour bus. And then you had these older people sleeping in the bunks trying to relax, right?
And you guys were just fucking.
So, I mean, I remember like.
Who's on the bus with you? Is it like you?
Oh, it was some hardheads on there. Like this kid, Abraham.
I remember Abraham.
He's the nuttiest.
He's a fucking lunatic,
He's
man.
nutty, bro.
He's a fucking
He's
lunatic.
a soldier.
Tanya had to be on it.
Tanya was on there at some point.
I fucking knew it.
I'm sure.
The
funny thing is, I wouldn't talk about this on any other podcast with anybody.
Yeah.
I don't ever talk about this.
I
only talk about it with you because I know that you're a fan of it.
Yeah.
And you were a fan of it. I remember it's the first thing you ever said to me.
Yeah.
You know?
It was my favorite show.
But you weren't like a negative fan of it. You were like...
I wasn't even remotely negative, dude.
Yeah.
I fucking one of my favorite people ever. I know we've talked about him, so I'll just leave it at that. Is CT.
Oh.
That guy's fucking fascinating. I still to this day find it.
Literally, that was me spitting my coffee up. Fascinating is a good word. But that's another reason why I quit going on the show. Is like this dude was knocking out whoever else was on the show. I'm like, I'm not ruining my life by getting knocked out by this freaking hypothalamic gland that's over.
I'd totally get punched by him if I ran into him because I'd be like, oh, fuck, CT. And he'd be like, bam.
Yeah. So, I don't even know him, but I just couldn't deal. I couldn't deal with that. So anyway, we're on this bus, right?
Yeah.
And the big rule, this young kid's rule was, who wasn't sleeping, was no shitting on this bus, right? And the first day I was like, guys, don't use the restroom. But after about 40 hours of no sleep, he's like, I dare somebody to shit on this motherfucker, right? So literally we're on like day 3 on one of these tours, and we're somewhere, and it's fucking 11 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah.
And I tell this dude, bro, Miss Margaret, who is the older karaoke woman.
Miss Margaret, yeah.
Just shit in the shitter, right? And this dude has not slept, bro. He's doing it all, no-nos, whatever, driving a fucking $500,000 bus, right, with 7 human beings living in it, and whatever girl who was banged and is still asleep in one of these, pods, and who's going to wake up in White Plains, New York, and have 2 options. 1, take a Greyhound home, or 2, be our merch girl. Which
Be our merch girl.
Which really was nothing because there was no merch.
Be our merch girl.
So next thing you know, this lady comes out of the bathroom. She'd probably just urinated or put on some extra lipstick, right? But I'm like, dude, Miss Margaret just took a shit in there, right? So this dude fucking pulls the bus over on the interstate, has lost his mind, jumps out of his seat, jumps on Miss Margaret, right?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Starts literally choking this lady out on the floor, bro. I'm not joking. Miss Margaret's partner, Mr. Dan, right, who is the male karaoke guy, literally cannot bend over to help because he had a bad back, right? He had best posture I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I also think he had a rod in his back, or maybe 2 rods.
Yeah.
But could not bend down to help, so he was just like yelling. I'm like, should I get somebody to help? Should I not get somebody to help, bro? This is hella fucking exciting, right?
Yeah.
It's midnight, and there's the skinniest guy ever who hasn't slept in 2.5 days choking out an adult woman who's selling hangover beverages and doing karaoke. I am dying.
She's like, help! I need somebody! Help!
And I'm like, where do I sign up for Riders on the Storm, right? Can we do that song next? So finally, Abram comes from the back, right?
Fucking
and he's like, oh, this is good. He's fucking shoving corn nuts into his mouth, bro. He always had corn nuts. Literally throwing them, and he's like, oh, this is good. Fast forward anyway, a half hour when the cops show up and everything, they're going to kick the driver out. They got to get rid of this kid. It's not safe, apparently.
Yeah.
So they're like, drive to the next stop, and we're going to get a new driver in. So we get to the next stop, which was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my buddy Tim Beggy actually lived there.
I know
and
Tim.
He was on Road Rules. He was a Road Rules guy, and he had some shows on the Travel Channel for a while.
Did he really?
Yeah, great host.
Wait, how do I know Tim?
He had a show called Guts and Bolts or Nuts and Bolts. It was on the Travel Channel for a while, or on the History Channel, actually. And he did very funny. He worked for Shark Tank for a long time. He did another kid show.
He was the first guy that I thought, the first guy that was like, he's probably the first generation of the guys that was like, fuck this, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to be in television.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he succeeded.
Yeah, he's very talented.
Yeah, talented dude, successful, good buddy of mine.
I met him. I want to say I partied with him one night, but I don't know. But yeah.
He used to do a show called
who was he really good friends with?
He did a show on Fox Sports where he would travel to college shows around the country, college towns around the country for football weekend. He did like the first show ever for that.
Who was he really good friends with? Was it you? And that's who I met him through?
Yeah, it could have been.
Okay, yeah.
He's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Tim was going to come pick me up in Pittsburgh because he lived there, right? So, we get to Pittsburgh. We're at a Walmart or something in the middle of the night. This one, Walmart didn't stay open 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I asked the driver, I'm like, well, look, man, this is my last hurrah. I can't be associated with this shit anymore. I'm out, too. I'm like, can you do just a thing for me, a big salute? Like, because a ship, sometimes will do a big circle whenever somebody dies or something. It's like a salute they do and pull the horn or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can you do that for me around this parking lot? He's like, sure, man, I'll do it for you, you know. So he literally dropped me off at this parking lot in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the middle of the night. I'm waiting for Tim to come meet me. This bus is just doing a big circle around me in the parking lot, right? Well, this fucking kid who hasn't slept in 3 days cuts it too close. And Hair of the Dog, the energy drink, had given us this trailer that you pull behind the bus that's full of energy drink, right? So this dude is doing this in this parking lot. He cuts it too close to turn. The trailer fucking jackknifes a little, bites into the back of the bus, like the edge of the trailer.
Shit.
Yeah, the thing is too long, the hitch.
Yeah.
Swings around and literally bites a chunk. Had to be $60,000 worth of damage into the edge of this bus, right?
Oh.
And I just remember the bus pulling off in the distance, and I can see someone peeking out of the hole that was created by this huge bite that the trailer
it's like
took
the
out.
Titanic.
Yeah, like, and just like, oh, that's going to cost them.
Oh, that fucking... Can I say this? Well, by the way, you just reminded me of making sure that you can get out of here in time. Okay, it's 25 minutes away. What time do you need to be there? 1?
Yeah, I need to leave in a minute.
Okay,
so
we're going to leave. Yeah, like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I just got to say this. That's the only time I ever worked for Buena Murray was when me, you, and Brett Ernst.
Oh, yeah, we did that special. We did a pilot.
Fucking Frat Life or something. And I've said this. So this is the greatest... This was the... And you dealt with it perfectly because you literally had that same, like, shrug, roll your eyes attitude. We put an ad in the fucking... In like the... Not the Village Voice, but like on Craigslist, going through a midlife crisis, want to be involved in the TV show, and we had a fucking Vietnam or an Iraqi vet with PTSD. Mm-hmm. We had that one guy who he just died. You heard about him?
Yeah, he
right?
just died.
And we had a
ninja. That one kid was like a ninja.
Yeah, the one kid was a ninja, and it was the biggest clusterfuck of a show because it was like
could have been great.
Oh, it could have been great, but it was like. It was just there were no holds barred. We stole the wrong goat.
Yeah.
We fucking remember we got strippers.
Oh, and
we
last
got porn
night,
stars.
one of those strippers is now a porn star. I was at her birthday last night.
But you still know her?
Yeah, I still
Which
know
one?
her.
The tall one?
Yeah, the tall one.
Fuck. Oh, she was so
I was at her
fucking
birthday
up.
last night at the parlor.
Shut the fuck up.
Bridget B. Bridget B is her name, the Brazilian bombshell.
Bridget B. I'm going to Google her right as soon as you leave.
Well, make sure the wife's not home. It's intense.
So wait, yeah, that and we. Do you remember the funniest part of that? There's a fucking 9 million funny parts of it, but the funniest was when we played those women in football.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And they were like, and like Buena Murray would set it up to be hilarious. Like they'd set it up like, so you guys will play, but they didn't realize the intensity with which we brought to every segment.
Right.
So like we did the fucking, they did, you're going to play football. So guys, we got football. The catch is it's women, and the payoff was going to be They're so much better than us. They're in pads. They're killing us. But Brett Ernst had played college football, and he gave a fucking literally a Lou Holtz, Bobby Bowden speech to the guys. And it was not TV friendly. He was like, I want these bitches on the ground. You want to prove that fucking men are better than women? You prove it on the field. And literally, we were clotheslining bitches, just, and girls were like, this is not cool. I thought they knew what we were doing. There was no reality acting in it at all. We fucking destroyed those women. We carried the big guy off on our shoulders. You remember that?
He died, I think.
He's dead. But we carried him up on his shoulders.
And it was a rainy day, too. I can't believe I forgot all about that.
Oh, yeah, dude. I remember that so good. Remember the first night, we got these porn stars, and we got strippers.
That
and
party was the best.
That was the best party I've ever been to.
That was the best.
And a band that all they did was spit whiskey in your mouth and rip pillows. And they'd rip pillows and have a pillow fight. And all they wore was duct tape over their pussies and tits.
Yeah.
That was it. Just electrical tape. Squares and squares. They were next to naked. We have porn stars. Everyone's making out with anyone except for me. And one guy comes up to me and he goes, I think I just cheated on my wife. And he was like, and he like started falling apart. He's like, man, like I've only been doing this show for like fucking 2 hours. I think I just cheated on my wife. And I was like, don't worry, man, shit happens. And I'm smoking a cigar in those pajamas that we got from fucking Reality Bites Back. And then they're like, and then one of the porn stars goes, everyone in the pool, and jumps off the fucking top deck into the pool, and everyone starts jumping 40 feet into this 6-foot pool. Oh fuck, that was so. I'm gonna call fucking.
We got to get footage of that.
Who was that? Was that our guy? Was that the same guys that you knew?
No, yeah, I know some of those guys.
Dude, see if you can get
Jeff
that
Jenkins.
pilot.
I'm going to ask him. Jeff Jenkins at Butterbury.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask
Hey,
him.
let's get a hold of Jeff Jenkins. Put me in the email. I want that pilot. Theo, I could fucking talk to you for hours, man.
Beyond the pilot, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to come hang with you guys in Coco Diaz, man.
I'm going to talk to Joey later today. If they're coming over, I'll just text you. Come over.
Yeah, it'd be
okay?
great.
Awesome, man.
Dude, thanks so much, man.
Do you have anything to promote?
Just check out my Netflix special. I don't know when it's going to be coming out, but it's going to be on Netflix. It's called No Offense. We taped it down in New Orleans. And just, follow me on social media. Just Theo Von, V-O-N. So, and thank you so much, man. I'm such a big fan. And
dude, it's
been a blast.
I just love you, man. I think you're one of the best. You're one of the best guys I know. And now, literally, after seeing the other night, one of the best comics I've seen in a long time, man.
Thanks, man.
I'm proud of you, but I didn't do anything. But I'm proud to have seen your growth.
You being a nice guy and a good comedian, I think inspires a lot of young comedians a lot more than you know.
Oh,
you just being willing to. I always see you do it on Twitter. You support your whatever local guy you're working with and stuff like that. And I think that goes a huge way with young comics. Not judging them, not being afraid to talk to them, and hear their stories and stuff like that. That's huge, man. So you know what I'm saying. You do your part without even realizing it, man. You fucking can't help it. You nice piece of work. Love you too, man. Thanks.
Thank you. This episode was brought to you by The Machine.